Hey Ken at AZ, these are your carburetors. Going to test them for you, but we're going to go over a few things first. Alright, starting with carburetor numbers. And 23571. I believe you can see that. 23571. Alright, over here we got 23592. See if you can see down in there. Maybe you can see that. Anyway, those are your carburetors. We're going to put the flashlight down. Now then, let's see. We got. Let's take a tour of the carburetors real quick. Got all new ball sockets right here, or balls, and then you need to make sure your sockets are in good condition. Now then, we've got all factory gaskets, as you can see, because they're red, not the crappy black ones. This is your idle mixture screw right here, and the idle mixture screw only works on the first barrel of each carburetor, and this is the one you dial in and out to get the proper mixture at idle, and that's what I'll be adjusting a little bit. The second barrel idle mixture screw is dummy, is blanked off, so don't mess with it. This is your G55. This is your idle jet. This is the only thing that controls your idle, and the 55 stands for 0.55 millimeter of an orifice for the fuel to flow through, which is about as the diameter of a wire on a wire brush. Very, very small. Very susceptible to getting debris in the orifice and stopping the engine from idling. So if you don't have any idle, but you can rev the engine up, then that's the problem. One of these in either carburetor is the problem. And since this G55 is not doing anything, just filling a hole, you can swap them back and forth if you need to for any reason. Like if you're on the road and all you can do is swap this one for this one if the idle degrades. Now then, something that a lot of people do not understand is we got this little pin, this little threaded screw right here, and what it does is it impinges on a pin below it that is what's used to close the second barrel. Once you've floored the linkage, the carburetor, the throttle, all four barrels are going to open up with vacuum at about second barrel opens up about 3,000 RPM with vacuum. And when you close the throttle, this pin, this screw right here, actually acts on this pin below there and helps close the second barrel. What you don't want to do, these are adjusted and you don't have to mess with them, but if you ever do, you want to make sure you don't screw this in so far that it starts to move your throttle linkage and increase your idle, because this is directly linked to your throttle rod, your throttle bracket, throttle lever. Anyway, so if you do happen to mess with them, just remember that you can screw them in too far and start messing with your idle. The other thing that you can get to adjust is these little set screws, jam nuts for your choke linkage. And what's going on is, you pull the choke on the dash, and it goes through a long cable, and then that cable goes straight down like this, but it wants to pull the choke in an arc. So you're pulling against the arc and you're pulling straight up, and it's just a real Rube Goldberg operation. So what you want to do is make sure that you've got your choke cable well lubricated, and then you want to adjust these binding screws so that they line right up with the cable, so the cable's not off to one side. What else? Let me put this in the tripod, and we will go over some other things right quick. Alright, mounting the carburetors. What you're going to do is mount the carburetors. I'm going to send you instructions. You've got some wave washers and some steel bushings that I'm going to send you the wave washers. You should still have your steel bushings. And you're going to mount the carburetors loosely, and then you're going to install your big airlog and wiggle the carburetors around to where the airlog will fit. For instance, this one will not go on here. And what you're going to do is wiggle the carburetors around. They wiggle like a, quarter inch, eighth of an inch up and down, left and right. And you're going to wiggle them until the airlog is going to fit on there and fit very nicely. Slide off and on. Then you'll go in with the airlog still in place. You're going to snug down a couple of these bolts right here, secure the carburetors, pull the airlog off, and then do the final tightening. The greatest tool for doing the carburetors is this right here. Set a 1/4 inch drive universals. And you only need 1/4 inch drive because you're not holding together the Eiffel Tower here. You're just securing carburetors, pot metal carburetors to rubber flanges, and you don't need a whole bunch of force and torque. The 1/4 inch drive will do it just fine. When you are securing the fuel lines to the carburetors, hold the fitting in the float bolt cover still, and then you use this one up here to move the swivel fitting. If you don't, you take the risk of ripping the threads right out of here. Fuel cleanliness is very critical. I suggest running a second fuel filter before the fuel pump to keep the G55s from getting clogged up. So I'm trying to think what else I need to mention to you. Choke mechanism. Choke, and the choke speed is controlled by this little guy right down here. Let's see if we can get oriented. This little guy right down here. Factory specifies 15 thousandths clearance between this screw and the lever it impinges upon. Let's see, let's get a better picture. There we go. 15 thousandths clearance. So I'll double check that for you. Anyway, while I've been doing this, let's say, make sure you got the fuel is good. Make sure you got fuel, and you use your priming lever to prime the system if the car's been sitting for a few days. I have my analog. You use this for RPM and for tuning. Digital just won't work. The bounces all over the place. Just ridiculous. And now then, we're going to talk about the synchrometer. Got to have a synchrometer, and the unit that you want is a BK1 to 35 kilograms per hour. This thing right out of the box fits and helps and is invaluable for tuning these carburetors. Obviously, while I've been talking, you know that these carburetors are cold. Cold's relative term. It's about 98 degrees right now. Anyway, we're going to start these things up and adjust them, show you how to adjust them, and I think you'll be pleased. Switch on, let's see. Blast of juice, choke. That was my fault, I flooded them. Because at the same time that you choke same time you operate the choke, it opens the throttle. Watch right back here as I do the choke. So I had done two things at once. I had given them a little juice, and then I had choked them, which gave them more juice. So I'd flooded the carburetor. Anyway, we can't tune these things until we come up to temperature, so that's what we're going to wait for next. Got to get it some temperature. ready for the thermostat to open. There we go. Drop in temperature. Thermostat is opening. Alright, now we're going to tune some carburetors. Since he's idle on the first barrel only, you want to make sure the second barrel is closed off. The factory would have a fit of the butterfly to the body that would allow some air to process through there, and the factory tolerances usually run around 2, and so anything below 2 for us is gravy. So you can see right there we got 1.5, 1. I just pushed on the counterweight because the machine work is still tight. They're still getting broken in. All right, and as you can see on the first barrel here, the first carburetor, we're down below 1. So we've got good tight butterflies, which is what you need in order to have these things operate properly. Next up, you undo the linkage so that these carburetors are running independently of each other, so you can tune them independently of each other. Alright, now we're going to, we got a reading of, now let me bump the idle up here a little bit. Idle is, right now the idle is about 450, so let's bump it up here a little bit. A little too low. Alright, and what we want to do is synchronize the airflow. So we're at about 7 right there, and 7 right there. Now what you want to do is snap the linkage back on and adjust. That's why there's a turnbuckle on this last one, so you can snap it back in position and nothing changes. Alright, what we're going to do now is the idle mixture screw. And what I like to do is the idle mixture screw in and out until you get the best idle speed, and that's where we come down here to our tachometer. So we're on the low scale, so we're running we're running 700 RPM. So now let's see if I can tune it down here. Alright, we're going to see if the RPM degrades or gets better, we're going to find the best spot for these to operate. So I'm screwing it in. Doesn't take much. Picking up a little idle there. Now, starting to degrade right there. So we're going to back off. Get our best idle. See, we picked up about 25 RPM. Do the same thing in the second barrel, or the second carburetor. So we're at 750. Still at 750, still screwing. Okay, now we start to degrade. Back it out. See, we picked up a little bit there, so again it's at 750. Now, we can come back here. That's at 750 RPM. We can come back here, and if you want to, reduce the RPM again. Alright, and then we're going to check with our synchrometer. Down to 6 here. A little bit above 6, so let's back this one off some more. Alright, we got 6 right there. 6 right there. Alright, snapping the linkage back on. Now, what that does is gives us an idle of about 650, which is, there we go, excuse me, 650. So that actually is on the low side. We probably should be up around 750, 800. So what we're going to do is screw these in the same amount till we get the desired RPM, and then we're going to double check with our airflow. Alright, we're up to about 7 right there. Let's get a little bit more. Airflow's at 7. A little bit below 7, so let's just smidge more. Alright. Let's take a look at our RPM here. We're running 750, excuse me. Running 750 RPM. Let's go back here. Alright, let's see what we got. Good response. Right back to where we were. Picked up a few RPM. We're a little bit above 800 right now. I have to say, these are damn nice carburetors, and I certainly thank you for your patience and waiting for us to take so long to get to them, but these are really nice carburetors. Thank you very much, Ken.